Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to welcome you to the United Nations office at Nairobi. I'm honored to be with you today for this special event, the Nairobi PeaceTalks, which is co-organized by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission of Kenya and Interpeace with the generous support of the Swiss Embassy. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. When I hear the term peace talks, my first instinct is to think of negotiations among warring parties aimed at finding a peaceful resolution to a violent conflict. And while the issue of peace negotiations will certainly be raised here, these Nairobi peace talks are not negotiations or peace talks per se, but rather talks about peace. Discussions on how to prevent societal tensions from erupting into violence, and reflections on how to strengthen our respective conflict prevention mechanisms. This is an extremely important topic and one that is central to the agenda and work of the United Nations. When the United Nations was founded 70 years ago, the prevention of armed conflict through the peaceful settlement of disputes was at the heart of the Charter. Since then, the UN has deployed considerable efforts and resources to promote peace and stability through preventive diplomacy, mediation, peacekeeping, and peace building, with both successes and setbacks. But the world has changed dramatically since the UN was founded in 1945, and so too has the nature of conflicts. The UN Charter sets out rules on how to prevent and resolve conflict between states, but today's challenges to peace and security often come within states, and often from non-state actors. And the lines between terrorists, transnational criminals, and extremists are blurring. The way the United Nations has responded to conflicts has also evolved considerably over the years. For one thing, there is a much greater understanding that peace does not just mean the absence of violence. It also requires tolerance and mutual understanding, inclusive institutions, social justice and equality. The United Nations is committed to building a culture of prevention, to take early action to diffuse tensions and create space for dialogue before conflict erupts. Similarly, the importance of involving a wide range of stakeholders in peace efforts is increasingly well understood and increasingly put into practice. The United Nations cannot do this work alone. To achieve our shared goals, all actors need to join hands as never before. Governments, business, civil society, communities, and individuals around the world. That is why I'm very pleased with the theme chosen for this event, I Contribute to Peace, which aims to inspire broad reflection on how everyone has a role to play in promoting peace. The Peace Talks are an event series where speakers from different sectors share their personal stories, ideas, and practical solutions to build peace. They began in 2013 with the Geneva Peace Talks, co-organized by our sister office, the United Nations office at Geneva, the Geneva Peacebuilding Platform, and Interpeace. It is very appropriate that this section of the Peace Talks, the first one to be organized in Africa, is being hosted by UNON. As you may know, UNON is the only United Nations headquarters in Africa, and indeed in the entire global South. This campus serves as a major hub for United Nations operations around the world. Some 60 different offices representing 24 United Nations funds, programs, and agencies are located here, serving some of the world's most vulnerable populations. Several United Nations peace support operations and special political missions have also been based in this compound. For example, currently, we host the Office of the Special Envoy for the Great Lakes region and the United Nations Support Office for Somalia, UNSOS, formerly UNSOA. UNON itself has also been called on at times to assist real peace talks, including through a provision of our interpreters, translators, and other conference service personnel to support negotiation sessions and mediation processes in Malawi, in the DRC, and maybe in some conflict areas that we see coming up these days. This is not only an appropriate venue for the meeting, it's also a very relevant time to having these discussions about peace. As we all know, we are living in a time of global turmoil. Violent conflicts in the world have tripled since 2008, and more than 60 million people are now displaced because of war and persecution around the world. But this is also a time of great opportunity, as the world charts a roadmap towards a more peaceful and sustainable planet, and the UN works to become fit for purpose, since there is no other way out. This year, efforts are underway to strengthen the United Nations work in peace and security with major reviews of our peacekeeping, peace-building, and political efforts, as well as on the implementation of the Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security. And of course, 7 weeks ago, world leaders adopted the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, 17 goals that build on the Millennium Development Goals to eradicate poverty, fight inequality, and promote a life of dignity for all. One of the goals, Goal 16, is to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development. I am therefore very pleased to welcome you all to the Nairobi PeaceTalks at UNON. UNON is ready to work closely with Interpeace in the future to keep this initiative alive, as you are doing with our sister office, UNOG, based in Geneva. I'm particularly happy that so many distinguished conflict resolution practitioners and experienced peace advocates are with us today. We can all learn a lot from them, and indeed we will do. I hope you enjoy the event today. I would now like to welcome our moderator, Ms. Victoria Rubadiri. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for those kind remarks. I wish to extend a very warm welcome to all of you here for the first ever Nairobi Peace Talks, organized by the National Cohesion and Integration Commission and Interpeace. I'd also like to welcome our online viewers and those who are joining us from other platforms. And now let's start by setting out what we have in store for the next 2 hours. As Her Excellency had reminded us, the Peace Talks are an event series where people from different sectors share their personal stories, ideas, and practical solutions to build peace. They began in 2013 with the first ever Geneva Peace Talks co-organized by the United Nations Office at Geneva, the Geneva Peace Building Platform, and Interpeace. Now today you'll hear stories from 11 individuals. We have speakers from different backgrounds, from different parts of Kenya. Among them are Kenyans from civil society, some are musicians, some are artists, and others are from government. What unites them is that they're going to share their personal stories of their contributions of peace to the country they all love, we all love. Before we get started, please allow me to thank the UN office at Nairobi for hosting the event, as well as the Embassy of Switzerland in Kenya for providing the generous support that has made this event possible. And to note, there will be an opportunity to interact directly with all of the speakers at the reception after this. Therefore, there will be no questions or comments during the event. The talks you're about to hear do not necessarily reflect the views of the organizers and the sponsors. Kindly place your phones, your mobile phones, on silent mode, but we encourage you to use social media, of course. We have a live Twitter coverage, and we'll ask that you use the hashtag Nairobi PeaceTalks. I'd also like to introduce Claudia Meyer, right over there, and she is our graphic recorder of the event. Now it is time to start. Our first speaker today is Nardos Bekele Thomas. Nardos is the resident representative of UNDP and the resident coordinator here in Kenya. She will talk about her personal experiences and contribution to peace in Kenya. Welcome, Nardos.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I think, I'll just share, like she said, my personal experience on peace. I would start with the latest, and then I will go backwards. Just last week, we witnessed with the United Nations and our partners, development partners, several of them, we went to Mandera and we witnessed the peace dividends. Because last year, early last year, I'm so glad that some of our partners are here. We went to Mandera, and that was just the day after the massacre of the quarry, if you remember. 28 people massacred, and when we arrived there, what we saw was horrible, horrifying stories, where we saw bodies, 28 bodies, just waiting to be boarded on the plane to come back to their resting place. It was a horrific sight. And we went there, and we didn't know what to say, what to do, how to comfort the people. It was terrible. Luckily, we just finished our mission. We were giving them the solidarity they needed, and we came back. Just after we arrived, then the same week, I'm so glad Chairman of NCIC is here. Then we were involved with this peace talk of the Mandera, because Mandera itself, among themselves, the Mandera people, were in conflict. And what happens is that they give this rift is just really a good fertile ground for external forces like the terrorists to come. So we addressed the different clans, and the chairman, with his straight talk, went straight to the point, and he was trying to resolve the problem. I gave my own experience, what it means to be in a conflict, what it means to be in a country where there is no stability, what it means to people that have, in a way, dignity. It just deprives them the dignity. It's not just something that would happen and end in a day. It takes generations for wounds to heal. And within the generation, there are so many things that happened. But, I would like to go back a little bit, because I lived also, and then, of course, that peace talk, luckily, has brought peace to Mandera. And today, Mandera is benefiting from peace dividends. And we were able to go there with the First Lady, with all the development partners, and bring development to the people of Mandera. And that is what is possible to be done only when there is a peaceful environment. Okay? The First Lady went there for the first time. She was the First Lady to go to Mandera, thanks to the fact that there is peace. But I lived here also during the post-election violence period. I saw the youth, Kenyans, killing each other. So youth taking the railway, the rails up. I saw the country collapsing from a 7% growth to 1% growth in a matter of a year. No, in the course of actually several months. Luckily, like the CJ just said to me, Kenya is a resilient country, so it bounced back. But if it slips into violence and massive violence, it will take generations. And I come to my own story now. I was a young 15-year-old, brilliant student in Ethiopia when the Red Terror occurred. I lost two of my brothers. I lost my grandparents. I lost my relatives, close relatives. I lost my friends. I was the lucky one to escape all that. I was in prison, but I was lucky enough to get out. And I left the country. The whole generation scattered all over, became refugees. Many of my young generation are lost. They didn't lose their lives. Some lost lives. But those that survived have lost their lives because they've come to be drug addicts, they've come to be, demoralized, depressed, and literally became really hopeless. It took us 2 generations, it took us 2 decades, to get back to what Ethiopia is today. 2 decades. There are many that didn't go back to their country for 20 solid years. Peace is priceless. Without peace, there is no development. Without peace, there is no life. There is no hope. And I think it's up to us individually to be peace brokers, peacemakers, and peace builders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nardos. Now, our next speaker is well known to a lot of you here in this room. Abbas Goulet is the Secretary General of Kenya Red Cross. He now will share his contributions to peace here in Kenya. Welcome, Abbas.
Thank you. Thank you, Victor. Our Chief Justice, Chair of NCIC, distinguished diplomats, ladies and gentlemen, mine is very humble. I'm happy to be here this afternoon. I work for Kenya Red Cross, and I worked for the Red Cross both as a volunteer and as a paid staff for about 42 years. And in these 42 years, I've had the honor of working in different parts of this world, where I have witnessed some of the serious conflicts that were man-made outside this country, but more importantly in our country over the last 10, 15, or even 20 years. What I want to share with you is my personal life into this and my personal action on this. First and foremost, I would say that I'm very fortunate, like Nardos just said, that I was also, at a tender age of 5 years, I lost both my parents. My father was lost due to the conflict in Kenya in the early 60s in northeastern Kenya of the shifter struggle. He was a herdsman, and the little that I've been told, that he lost his life because of the insurgency that was there and because of the Kenya Defense Forces that were then working in those areas. My mother passed away on natural illnesses. I was fortunate enough to be adopted as a child at a very tender age in Mombasa, in Kenya, with my adopted parents that came from a totally different clan or different background or ethnicity, if one may call it that, or tribe in this country. But nevertheless, I am very grateful to Lord Almighty for what He has given me in my life. And I grew in Mombasa, which is my hometown, and sometimes some people feel that I'm a bit lost from my own ancestry background. But with the Red Cross, I found a home where I could grow and be what I wanted to be. And I was fortunate to start as a volunteer in a local branch in Mombasa way back in 1973, because I was doing something called the President's Award Scheme then, or in UK it's called the Duke of Edinburgh Award. So to do your basic bronze medal, you had to learn first aid. And in first aid, I went to the there was St. John's Ambulance and Red Cross, the two organizations you could go to. So I went to the Red Cross in '73 while in high school. And that is my association between me and Red Cross since then. 11 years as a volunteer in Mombasa in a local branch, but the last 32 years or 30 plus years as a paid staff, both locally here and internationally. And I've been fortunate to work in every corner of this world except in North America. So what has been my role and what has been my contribution in relation to peace, and particularly in Kenya? I worked for Kenya Red Cross from 1985 to 1990 as a paid staff, and during this period, as a small young national youth officer and working as in other various roles. And one of the things that I saw very quickly was the hope that Red Cross could bring to people who are hopeless for one reason or another, whether man-made or natural. I remember way back in '78 in Mombasa as a volunteer, when we had refugees coming all the way from Vietnam, who then were called the boat people, who were coming as far as this part of the world to look for sanctuary. And where the Red Cross went to assist them before they were relocated to some in France, some in Canada, as asylum seekers, and they were taken to those countries. But coming closer here in Kenya, over the last 10 years, we've seen in this country, and I would actually say over the last 20 years, from way back 1992, where there has been conflict on political grounds, on ethnic grounds, on resource, whether it's land or water, in many parts of this country. And for me as a Kenyan, I was very shocked to see what people can do to one another for simple things that in other person's mind could be sorted out very easily. We see cattle rustling. This has been a traditional thing in some communities over the years. It was a macho thing to go and steal from a neighbor when you have initiation periods or you have some festivals. And the next time they come and steal from you, there'll be agreement between them, and things were finished that way. But what we've seen over the last many years is there has been actually a more organized cattle rustling for those who are involved in this business, and where we have seen more arms being used and more violence being used and more people being displaced, and women and children who were previously not to be touched are today part and largely the victims. And in those situations, you found out that it is either economic, it is political, it could be for resources. So my personal view has been to work on these issues and work on these issues very seriously, to say that as even for my organization, we've had to firefight to respond to this crisis, but we've said no as an organization. Our personal, individual, and collective responsibility would be to address the root causes of some of these challenges. So over the last few years, we've been working a lot, even including NCIC and other government agencies, to even get into a situation where people have been fighting. And I can use many examples. In Tana River, every 5 years there's a conflict before elections. In Samburu, there would be these challenges between Samburu and Turkana, but also in Isiolo between the Merus, Samburus, Turkanas, Somalis, in Marsabit between the various communities. But I think the bigger example for me I wanted to use is the post-election violence. I'm very happy, as sad as it may sound, that the first pictures that Kenyans and the world saw in their living rooms were pictures that I took with my colleagues because we had the intelligence and the information at what was happening on the ground from 27th, 28th, 29th of December and 30th of 2007 after the election. Since then, we have stayed on the forefront, and I can use many examples of my personal intervention. And I can use more recently in Kapedo, Baragoi, and even Tana River again with the conflict about 3 years ago, to really say that in my own capacity as the head of the organization, we've made it our business to bring peace and dialogue among these communities when they are forced into conflict through politics or through other means. And I think in this case, I'm very happy that we've passed the stage of firefighting, but to go into the root causes of these challenges. And this is what I would urge my compatriots and residents of this country, that actually it is possible to bring dialogue among communities. I think the chair of NCIC is here. We've done that in Marsabit and Moyale after almost, for 3-4 years of fighting. Thank God up to now, at least the peace is holding there. But we've seen new situations in Isiolo, Meru now. We've seen this in Samburu. We've seen this between Turkanas and Pokots, whether it was Kapedo or Nandome and many others. So I just want to say that really, individually and collectively, we can promote and add value to peace in this country. Because of time, I just want to thank you very much.
Thank you, Abbas. Now our next speaker is Solomon Moyundo. Some of you know him as Solo 7. Now, drawing from his experience during post-election violence, he's going to tell us how he contributes to peace using art, quite literally. Welcome, Solomon.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I would like to thank the guests of honor and all the organizers of this event for giving me this opportunity at least to speak about this. Because actually my name's Solomon Miundo, aka Solo 7. And why I call myself Solo 7, it's because 7 has always appeared in my life so many times. Like I was born in 1977, July 7, and I'm the 7th born in the family of 9. And it happened coincidentally that violence erupted during the end of 2007 after disputed election results. And me as a fellow Kenyan, I realized that many people were suffering. And most of them were innocent because some of them, they know nothing about tallying and all that. But you could find some people now trying to hit back on the community, to hit others as if they know anything about election results. So when the violence erupted, at first I could not have paint to use, but I started with a piece of charcoal. There is an open air market in Kibera, it's called Toi. When people are looting people's properties, touching them, it happened that I got just a piece of charcoal and I went around the stalls writing on bales of cloth like, keep peace, fellow Kenyans, peace wanted alive. And sometimes I could also mention, like, it was that zone, the majority were of a certain political party. So I could also try to favor that. I write the name of the party on business premises. So people, when they see that this premises belongs to one of our supporters, they won't go in and loot. So I kept on doing like that, and when they announced about 3 days of mass action, it's when now I said, no, there is a hard task ahead of me. Because at first people reacted according to their own expression, and now our leaders are calling out for mass action. And the people are still having that kind of anchor. They said, oh God, I know many people are going to die, many people are going to starve. So we had a workshop in Mombasa, and we had some leftovers of the paint. So I decided I can keep the paint in my house, and I don't know if I will survive during these 3 days of mass action. So I realized when people came out to protest, they came out in their large numbers, as our leaders called it. But now they came out with the crude weapons, all kinds of crude weapons, machete, batons, stones, as if they are going to lynch someone. And I said, no, I can't sit down and watch things get worse. So I started with the first message, it was this one. So I could not go directly and write on someone's premises, but I started to write across the tarmac roads. When I realized that the media people were now focusing on me very much, and the protesters also, they were curious with me. What am I doing in the midst of the road? I could not run away from the policemen or my fellow countrymen who are protesting. So they realized that whatever I was doing, it was a little bit positive. So I realized seeing some could now started dropping their stones slowly, slowly. And I realized by that time that for those who are also causing chaos, they wanted to get the attention of the media people so that when they shoot on the television, the country could see how people are expressing their anger. You see, and that one could spark a lot of violence across the country. But now, I thank God, the villagers also encouraged me to keep on writing those peace messages. Even they could call me in their neighborhoods So I felt safe and secure that now people are realizing what I'm doing. So I kept it on like that until the violence calmed down. And the streets of Kibera were like ruins, face of fire. Me and my fellow artists, we decided now, how can we kill this face of fire within or out of these ruins? So we decided to beautify also the ruins. Like, it became like a museum where we can just go and paint our graffiti. And we realized that kids were also eager to learn, even though they were like divided on political backgrounds due to their families. Like, these kids of this party or the other kids from the other party, they can't play together, they can't work together because they are rivals. And remember, kids doesn't vote. So it's like their parents could not allow them to play together or do anything together. So, but since they were eager to learn or to paint, whenever they could see us go and paint, they come solo. Can I have a brush and also paint anything? Say, yeah, you are welcome. So kids start joining us. They paint political hate speeches, but I knew that was, they were undergoing a certain kind of trauma whereby we could not restrict them. We left them paint until they started now painting positive messages. And one challenge we found, like kids could just come with their clothes, and when they go home, maybe some paints are spilled on their clothes. Now it brings another conflict in the family, like, oh, I bought you this, it's like a uniform, now you are spoiling it with paints. Who gave you the paints? Solo 7. So we decided now, we will be working with these kids, but only during the weekends, like on Saturdays. Whenever they used to come on Saturdays, we bought T-shirts, and we gave them T-shirts like they are now uniform. You can't identify who is who, but they are all kids of Kibera. So we have been working with those kids until their parents acknowledged that what we were doing, it was positive. Because instead of kids going and playing or picking some scrap metals to go and sell, they found that their kids are now being creative. Even we have some kids who have already managed to sell some paintings, their artworks, and instead they take home something, or we call the parent to come and pick the money so that the parent can utilize on either food or clothes. Yeah. Thank you so much. I don't have more to say. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Solo 7, for that. Our next speaker is Celine Korir. She is the founder of the Rural Women Peace Link. And she's going to share how she contributes to peace by putting women at the center of reconciliation efforts. Welcome, Celine.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here. And it's a privilege also to speak after Solo. I'm an eyewitness that his work and his efforts are working. The first time I went into Kibera in 2012, the first message that I saw so broad on the wall is peace wanted alive. And that is great. My name is Celine Korir. For the last 23 years, my life has been defined and shaped by peace. And so peace has become my life. I share it, I live it, and I speak it wherever I go. I define myself as a mediator, and so also in this context, see myself with all the work that I have been able to do for the last 23 years. I see myself as a bridge builder. Currently, I'm providing a leadership to a program called Kenya Tuna Uwezo program, which is a conflict mitigation program, which is also responding to the effects of violent extremism in the informal settlements of Nairobi. It is a program that is supported by USAID but implemented by global communities. Now, I'm going to share very briefly
that my peace talk will really be able to bring out 3 key things in my life, and will also tell the story of what I've been able to do. But the 3 single stories that are key in my sharing is that in every bad situation, our courageous acts make a difference. That in every situation, the women have the power to make a difference. And that the story that I'm going to tell will be able to demonstrate clearly that peace is possible, and that every step in peace building and reconciliation leaves a footmark that we are able to commit to collectively. My engagement in peace building in this country can be traced back in 1992. So those of you who are in this room during that time, I can see the honorables here, you will identify with this story. In 1992, Kenya experienced what we call land clashes or ethnic clashes. And the excuse given for these land clashes was historical injustices. It was negative politics and the manipulation of the dissatisfaction that communities had or grievances. And so that is how I began my work. I engaged with NCCK, the National Council of Churches of Kenya, that gave me the opportunity to go across the country to be able to work with the displaced persons in providing relief services. But during that time, I witnessed the suffering that women and children were undergoing. The women were conditioned on what to say and what not to say. The women who were displaced were in the camps, and the only relief items that were being given at that time was maize and beans and blankets. Leave alone these days, Goulet is bringing a lot of goodies. It was maize and beans and blankets. Nobody remembered that women needed cooking utensils like sufurias and cups to be able to cook these beans and maize. Nobody remembered that in the IDP camps, there were women who were displaced when they were expectant, and that in the process of being in the camps, they were giving birth. And so, when I witnessed that, I said I would take a step. In that context, the opportunity given, I made a decision I was going to make a step. And so I took a step, and the first step that I made is I went to my supervisor then, the late Rose Barmasai, may God rest her soul in peace. And I took a step and I told her all the stories and all what I had witnessed, the sufferings, the silence of the women, the fact that men spoke everything about what they were going through, and then they told the women to endorse, that the women were not given opportunity to say what they were going through. And so I shared with her, and I asked her one question. I asked her, can you give me opportunity to have seminars that will only bring women alone, so that women can speak their pain, can speak their ideas on how they contribute to the construction of the country, but also just to have a space to cry and to start healing, so that they can rise up with new strength and new breath in order to start engaging. And so we started breaking the silence. I was told, you have my blessings. And I scooped it like a media person, and I ran with it. And in every district that we walked across this country, Western Province, Coast region, the Nyanza region that were affected too, Pokot region, which is part of North Rift, I made a decision that I was giving the women opportunity to say what they are going through and how they could make peace. And so very quickly, we had series of seminars that were called good neighborliness seminars. And in these seminars, women identified the opportunities and platforms and avenues that they had that could give them the chance to speak peace. So they identified the chiefs' public barazas in their villages. They talked about the opportunities within the schools where their children were studying, and they said, when we go for parents' meeting, we can start talking. They talked about marketplaces, and they agreed that whenever they would go to our marketplaces, they would start exchanging peace messages through buying and selling. And they talked about so many things. And so we agreed that we're going to make deliberate efforts to really start engaging each other, start talking and visiting women. We visited women who were displaced and looked at their condition and started contributing as women. Those little efforts bore fruit, and the women and youth started interacting. And finally, somehow calm, normalcy started returning into our villages. And when this started happening, then resettlement began. And we agreed that as resettlements were taking place, women who are receiving, those women who had been in the camps, would go with them and start helping them to rebuild their houses. So construction was being done across ethnic groups. We encouraged women to start visiting each other during the weddings and during the birth times. And so we worked together as women and encouraged the women to work together. My message and the lessons that I have drawn from the great work that we've been able to do is that peace is possible, but it requires commitment. It is that peace is a risky endeavor. And that for me, as a woman who has the power, I do not have to wait to see a violence happen somewhere before I can intervene. And so today, as I speak to you, and as many of you know, when I get into a cab, I say, this is my space to speak peace to the driver. When I go to buy an item in a shop, I say, this is my space to make peace. When I go to the communities where I work right now in the informal settlements, we talk peace. And so my encouragement, saying, as I say, peace is possible, let us take every opportunity and be the hummingbird that Wangari Maathai spoke about. When all the elephants and big animals were watching with their big eyes in the forest, and the forest was burning, the hummingbird decided to take water through its beak, little by little, and managed to control the fire in the forest. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Celine. Now, our next speaker is Juliani. He is one of Kenya's top hip-hop musicians. He comes from Dandora, right here in Nairobi, and he's going to tell us how he uses his music to contribute to enhancing national unity. Karibu, Juliani.
Asante. It's quiet. Relax. People always forget political speeches, but they always remember lyrics to their favorite songs. Kweli. My name is Julius Owino. I'm a hip-hop artist, and I have a passion for community. And I was looking at this, your Bible. If you have your Bible, please. I saw this picture of me with a suit. I don't know how I afforded the suit then. But this is a picture of me in 2008. And my background was my neighborhood then, Dandora. And that suit, I felt like I was really smart then. Looking at it now, I'm like, really, you know. But I come from Dandora, and if you know Dandora, after using anything that you use, 2,000 tons of dump that you use end up in Dandora. And that's where I come from. That's why I called home. So when I read here, growing up poor and now earning a decent living as a recording artist. For us, when we didn't think we were poor then. To other people, we looked like we were poor. To other people, we looked like we needed help. But to us, it was home. There was no problem with where we were. So I always wanted to be a big artist and the most respected rapper. You know, I always wanted to have the biggest car, the biggest house, the most beautiful woman, you know. Like all of us, don't pretend. I mean, men, okay. But the biggest switch for me, the biggest switch was the realization that the poverty and the crime and the hopelessness around me provided a big canvas to paint the picture of hope, peace, and possibilities. And one of my biggest fans that I'm always proud to show off with is the Chief Justice. Chief Justice Unanipata. He wrote in one of the biggest articles, like his favorite song of all time is my single Utawala. And Utawala, I recorded the song in 2013, just before elections. And people don't know this, but I was paid by KTN to write a song. So I wrote the song. And when I was writing the song, I was told, write something inspiring and whatever. So we put it up on TV, and it was played as a background music as they were announcing the results and talking about the elections then. Apparently, people liked the song, and they didn't even know that I was the one who sang the song, at least the chorus, that they kept asking about which song is this. And eventually, of course, we did a video and all that. And after recording the song, I think it's one of the biggest songs, at least to me until now. And it doesn't matter where I go around the country, to the smallest, to the biggest, from the richest to the poor, from the uneducated to the educated, they all know the song. And the song goes like, na msijifanye amjui sawa. Niko njaa hata siezi. Owe. Sawa, time yangu isiisha, relax. Everybody knew that song. So my point is, and I was doing this research and I was told, 48% of the world's population is below 24 years. So what are the tools that we're going to use to communicate to them? Are we going to use the usual traditional ways? What are we going to do? Are we going to use pamphlets and conferences? Nah, because they don't come to these places. They go to clubs. These people go to concerts. These people are in the streets. The only tool you can use for now, art and music. And I've been privileged to have this opportunity. Right now, I'm the Vice Chair of Sports, Arts and Culture in KEPSA. I'm so proud of myself when I say that. And I have an opportunity to do something about it. The second thing that I've done so far is that in early last year, in my old neighborhood, in the dumping site, I managed to put in 2.5 million and bought a 3-story building at the dumping site. And the Chief Justice, again, of course, him and other good believers and friends put in some money. He put in a substantial amount from his pocket. And I managed to buy the property. And right now we have like, it's not well done yet, but it's good. Right now I have like 40 artists who are always there, creating an environment for them to grow, equipping them, and providing opportunity for them to be musical leaders. Just like, of course. So, to finish my point, music is powerful. And music and art is the only tool, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the only tool that breaks barriers. And if it's used deliberately, and if it's used rightfully, if it's supported, half of our problems will be sorted because it will inspire. It will push people to do the impossible. I'm standing here because of music. When I was growing up, I used to be asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? I wish to say I want to be a pilot or a doctor so that the teacher doesn't look like, I don't look like a stupid guy. But until I found music, that's why I'm standing here. I managed to express myself. I became more confident. So it's not just about being a superstar. It's about how do you create complete and human beings. And I think one of the best tools to use is music. So as I conclude, politicians pay people to come for their rallies. Sindio? But people pay to come and see musicians.
Thank you, Giuliani. On that note, we here at Nairobi Peace Talks don't just talk about music. We play it too. I'd like to invite Sarabi to come and do a duet. Or what do we call it now? Because it's actually more than just two other guys. Yes, with Giuliani, and they will be performing Sharia. Welcome, Sarabi Band.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mandela, and I'm a lead singer for Sarabi, and we contribute to peace through music. Nalipa tax na hata siwezi afford kupanda taxi. Kwa banki sina kakitu, siwezi afford hata shati. Woi, maji nanywa ya kanjo yako ya chupa za mapambo. Nalipia mtoto wako elimu ya bure ya juu, unanipa ya bure lakini ya udu. No, so nitapata wapi majibu ya maswali? Mahindi lienda wapi? Pia shilingi ya shule za msingi. Paulo mtume, mbona jela usimtume? Lazima abuniwe tume. I wonder yo. Oh yeah. Lazima abuniwe tume. Mapenzi ndizo hali, mapasa tulificha kwa kabati. Oi, kazi kwa vijana, pesa kwa wazee. Tulimangamanga mpaka Samadej I say. Oi, iko nini? Lazima abuniwe tume. Yes, I wonder. Lazima abuniwe tume. Sheria. 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 Fuata. Sheria. 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 No, no. Fuata. Sheria. Sheria.
One picky dead when you need to slap somebody.
Slap somebody.
One picky dead when you need to
Slap somebody. Slap somebody.
complain ufisadi, kwani ulidhani 50 bob leso siku ya campaign zilikuwa free? Ni 5-year loan investment, utalipa kiingia parliament. We are one, amani we are one. Utumishi kwa wote, utu missing CCTV we were watching. Racial security na job opportunity ni kamti ya kibiriti. Side moja heavy, usiniambie Kenya kuna umaskini, kwani hizi fat fingers zinaibia nane? Maskando zinatuetenda wa survival, media define leadership, na surukia ka front page ina improve readership. Ambia so wa Twitter wa hashtag hii ama hash reality doesn't make a good DD. Commission of inquiry wanakula commission bila kutupa ukweli. Ni kubaya mpaka kukiwa kuzuri unashindwa nini mbaya. Machozi ya perpetrator inaweza dilute damu ya victim ilimwagika.
No, see, I will.
After all is said and done, all will be said and nothing will be done. You're not my tribe, but you can be my blood type. It doesn't have to take tragedy to know that.
Pia wewe mwananchi, tabia zako ziko chini, unapenda kulipa hongo na kutumia njia za uongo. Una mipango hata watoto wa kando, haujui hata majina yao. Kura yako uliuza maini figo, ukakulia hadi dini, kisha wasema tukuthamini na wewe hapo hauaminiki. Oh no, wewe hapo haupangiki. Tell me, nani atajibu haya maswali? Si bado tuna IDPs, mbona hatusaidii? Damu ziliundwa na maji, bado hatupati. Oh, hey. Mihadarati iko wapi? Pia madawati. Oh, uko hayuko pia pio kama majama. Hey. Nani aliuza Kenya na wako wapi Mau Mau? Oh, lazima abuniwe tume. Lazima abuniwe tume. Sheria. 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 Fuata. Sheria. 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 Fuata. Sheria. Yes. Politicians pay people to come listen to their lies, while people pay to come listen to something priceless. Blessing.
Big thank you to Giuliani and Sarabi Band for that wonderful performance. I'm now pleased to welcome Francis Kariuki. He is the chief of Lanet Umoja. We also know him as the Tweeting Chief. Chief Kariuki will now share how he uses technology to contribute to better communities. Welcome.
Thank you very much. So my name's Chief Francis Kariuki, also known as the Tweeting Chief from Lanet Umoja. I'd like to say God is good all the time. Yeah, it's good to say that. And I want to start with a short story. I'm a storyteller. Work of the chief, we are paid to talk. We talk from morning to evening. So Welcome on board. So my first story is about a school called Nairobi Moja. Behind the school, somebody had kept a beehive. What happened is that the previous night, he had just harvested the honey. And the African bees are dangerous for the sake of those people who don't come from Kenya. They are very dangerous. So what happened is that the kids came to school the following day, and the bees were mad that the honey had been taken away. So when the kids were praying around the prayer field, the bees heard them. And they came and started attacking the children. And the more the kids were attacked, the more they started screaming, running around the playground, screaming and screaming. What happened is that the parents called me and told the chiefs, the bees are killing the children. I asked them, what do I do? Told me, send the message out and ask the parent to come and help. So what happened is that I sent the message out, told the parents, run to Nairobi Moja. I put it in Swahili, kimbieni Nairobi Moja na mbembe blanketi, carry blankets. What the blanket for? The blanket were, you cover a kid, grab them and run away with them. The school had the capacity of 500 children. We managed to save 499 children. One of the boys died. Because where the boy fell, bees fell on him like flies on poop. And the thing was terrible. So we managed to take that to hospital. We took the boy the following day to the general hospital. The boy died. If we didn't have a means of communication, we'd have lost many children. That is community working together. I want to give another interesting story. In my place, people live in plots. So there was this old man, he was coming from drinking spree. He was drunk and he carried a piece of meat and he was going home. Where he passed by, somebody had just dug a fresh pit. So the guy didn't know, as he was going home, he fell into the pit. The first, he called the wife and told him, "Hi, my wife, I'm in a police cell." He thought he had been arrested by the police. Then he stayed for some time. About 2, he called and said, "Hey, the police cell is raining." And stayed around 4:30 p.m., around 3 is the time he realized he was in a pit. So he called the wife and told me, "Please, I'm in a pit and I don't know where I am." So the wife called me and told me, "Chief, my husband has fallen into a pit and we don't know where he is." I sent a tweet out and the villagers came. And it's always good to build trust with the people you are leading because they trusted me. They came out. We went from hall to hall from hall. We got him around 4:30 in the morning. We took him to the hospital. 4 of his ribs were broken. But we managed to save his life. From that time, he got saved. He changed his life, which is a good thing, yeah? That is community working together. Another interesting thing about what we do in the net is that thieves themselves follow me on Twitter. So if something happens, what they do is that they know if they are stealing somewhere. Like a story, there was a day they were stealing electric transformers. I don't know why they take that oil inside. They were stealing the transformer. So people called me at around 2 a.m. and said, "Chief, our transformer is being stolen." So I wrote very quickly, "Ile transformer ya Baraka inaibiwa, wananchi saidieni." Meaning that transformer Baraka is being stolen. Please, wananchi, go and help. What they did, they jumped from the electric pole and ran away. That is crime prevention. Isn't it? Because now people can work together. It's a system that does not have so many enemies. In my area, in 2007, my place was adversely affected by tribal clashes. Many people left us. My neighbors left me. That time I was a teacher. I could not go and teach for 2 months. I could not go and teach. But this time round, in 2013, nobody left. Why? People have seen the value for one another. When a kid gets lost, they just need to tell me, "Chief, mtoto amepotea." We send the message out, the kid is found. Animals lose their way home from the grazing pastures. We send the message out, the animals are found. There was a day a house was on fire. What we did is that they called me, they told me, "Chief, Mama Joyfrey's house is on fire." I sent the tweet out, "Please go to Mama Joyfrey's house and carry some buckets. They took the buckets and helped to put the fire out. What does it mean? People have learned to become their brother's keeper. They have seen the value for one another. Apart from that also, our system, we use it for business. We have our own small OLX at Lanet. So what normally happens is that some people, their business is keeping of chicken or maybe cattle. So sometimes the kids are invited to go to universities and the parents have no money. So what they do, they tell me, Chief, I want to sell my chicken. Hii kuku zimekaa karibu zinanimaliza na chakula, na sipati customer. I send the message out and the chickens are bought. That is community work. One who want to sell their cow. They tell me, I send the message out, Baba John is selling his cow, this is his number, they go and buy. So that one, the value and the need of working together has created a lot of peace and the people see value for one another. What I want to say to our people in the country is that, and to the politicians, that let us look for things which are common, that all of us can be able to do together, that will promote peace, that people can see value for one another. May God bless you.
Thank you, Chief Francis. Now, I'll be sure to follow you on Twitter, which I already do, and I hope everyone else here is as well. Our next speaker is Ikal Angele, co-founder and director of Friends for Lake Turkana. Ikal will share with us how her efforts to help preserve the environment are contributing to peaceful relations between communities. Ikal.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here with people who have defined who I am. The Chief Justice is an old friend who I met years ago, complaining about how a lot of the donor money stays within Nairobi. That time I was interning at the Ford Foundation. And the first thing he told me, do something about it. And that was the reason I went back to Turkana. So I'm always grateful to the Chief Justice for that. I think one of the things that people have always talked about Northern Kenya, and Nados will tell you, is a lot of security comes with it. Any of you who's planning to travel up north, the first thing you ask, what's the security like? And everything is always, first thing anyone knows about Northern Kenya is insecurity. And rightly so, because that's what the media has always presented. Unfortunately, the media doesn't really show the other aspects of the area, which are beautiful landscapes, a virgin environment that's untapped. But right now, we're struggling with oil exploration and a lot of development in the region. So one of the things that I have done, and what has inspired me to do the work I do, is a focus on natural resources. The development in Northern Kenya, pastoralists, day-to-day survival is linked to the natural resources, the natural environment. So it's access to water. While we're discussing GDP out here and whether NYS money has been stolen, that's not in their conversations. They're thinking about water, they're talking about pasture, they're thinking about their migratory routes and all that. So even when we're talking about Lapset, the first thing that communities will ask you is, explain to me what it means for my camels. If I'm crossing across, and this is across Turkana, Marsabit, Isiolo, that is the first thing they're thinking about. And so in our work, we've been debating and saying, it's very easy to just get into the peace conversation, but then what is the root cause? What is the root cause? A lot of the times, government institutions like KVDA have said the peace between Turkana and Pokot will be solved if we put large-scale irrigation. Again, is that going to resolve the issue? Because it's the attachment. It's not the attachment to sugarcane plantations. It's not attachment to large irrigation projects. It is the attachment to their grazing, their migratory routes. And that discourse is always left out. And so what we've been working towards is ensuring that communities are on the same platform. So they're discussing. So development is great, but we've been saying, yes, development for whom? And where are people in the development discourse? So right now, our work as Friends of Lake Turkana is inside initially in terms of fighting to stop the dam being constructed in the Yomo River. And this was it was a challenging project because the project is happening in Ethiopia, yet the impact at first, from our point of view, was in Kenya. And then the time when we are doing this, a lot of the communities in Ethiopia, who we have been struggling with, and I remember one chief who was the most notorious person for inciting raids between the Dasnach and Turkana. He told me, if you agree to be my wife, because I'm seeing you're very strong, if you agree to be my wife, then we can start to discuss about the Turkana Pokot. And at that point, the community saying, let's talk, don't refuse. So we started talking, and for a while, you know, since the last massacre, which was in 2012, we haven't had such a bad raid between Turkana and Dasnach. And it has also been challenging because at the same time, I have friends among the Dasnach in Kenya, in Ileret. And when you're speaking to them, and then the community is saying, you're selling us out, because it's that point of communication where you cannot say, you know, I am Turkana, so I cannot say they attacked us, because at the point where you start the conversation and say, you start pointing fingers, then there is no resolving. And so we've had to step back and say, what is the problem? How do we resolve it? And really start a discourse. And right now we are in a place where between Ileret, where many of you I'm sure do not know, it's in northeastern Kenya. It's very, not northwest, but to the eastern side of the lake. And many times the people there will talk about the bir more than the Kenya shilling. Many children there will ask you for the bir. It's easier for them to go and play sports in Ethiopia than down in Marsabit. And we have started a conversation among young people who we've gone to school with. We realized we had a space. A lot of the young university students had come and we had integrated in other spaces. We have gone clubbing together, they have dated among, and so we decided, well, let's use what we have. And what we are doing is we're creating a space where they are part of Friends of Lake Turkana. They have been able to engage through Friends of Lake Turkana. And when there's a raid happening with the Dasnach, if Dasnach are threatening the Turkana fishermen, then they're the ones who will alert us. And should a raid happen, then we hold them accountable. And for us, we've been very lucky because among the young men, who's called Habara, his father is the chief. So we start saying, you Habara, you must know what's happening. And in the same situation, when there's a raid from the Turkana and the Dasnach, then they will call me and say, you have to tell us who was among this. And we've been able to resolve a couple of conflicts. It doesn't solve it all, but one thing we've realized, it's come from the basis of environment and natural resources. It's not peace in a vacuum. It's not conflict in a vacuum. It's the realization that the conflicts are based on natural resources and the natural environment, the state of the resources. So even now it's helping us because we all know LAPSAT is coming, oil pipelines, all this development. So our discussion, when we're engaging all the development partners, all the government agencies, is from the point of resources. So even the conflict situation is not just conflict in a vacuum. It's really saying, how is it going to happen? I think, but what's kept me really going is, in the last few months, you may have seen the conflicts in Marsabit, in Sarima, between the Rendile and the Turkana. In my lifetime, Rendiles and Turkanas have never fought. They have never fought. But this was massacre, where people were being slaughtered, not even guns. And a young boy who's doing his class 8 has kept calling me every month. And I kept wondering, why is he calling me? And he said, I don't want, he's Rendile. He told me, I have known you since I started school. I don't want you to stop talking to me because I'm Rendile. And for me, it sort of kept me thinking, why is he afraid? And he said, listen, we live in one, because if you go to Loyangalani, it's called the El Mosaretu, El Moro, Samburu, Rendile, and Turkana. But in the last few weeks, the tension is so alive that people who've been born together, who've stayed in villages together, are now not talking. Discussions of development is based on, let's start a CABO for Turkanas, let's start a scholarship for Rendiles, let's do this, let's fundraise for Rendiles. And that for me is worrying. Because if you know Loyangalani, it is one of the most beautiful places in this country, which has the cosmopolitanness, because Somalis have gone there. People go there. NCIC used to come up there for days. But now, because of development, there's a split in that community. And it's all because politicians have come and said, oh no, that community, land that was never defined by who used it, it was defined by pastoralists grazing in it, is now defined by historically, Samburus were using it, historically, Rendiles were using it, or now Turkanas are immigrants. That for me is the fear of development. And so what we are trying to do is to create the space for inclusive development from the beginning. And this is a plea that I've had and I've kept, so my contribution to peace is reaching out to development partners, financing institutions, to ensure that they are very well informed. It's not that one letter of the proposal from the government of Kenya, because the government of Kenya is sitting in Nairobi and forgetting that it's making decisions without involving the actual people who live there. And so our biggest contribution is, let's bring the people who are using these resources. This land is not idle, but then this land is the biggest potential for conflict in this region. Thank you.
Thank you, Ikal, for that very profound presentation. Our next speaker is Zarina Patel. She is the managing editor of Awaz magazine, and she's going to share how her contribution brings bridges or builds bridges between different sectors and communities right here in Kenya. Zarina.
Good evening, everyone. And thanks to the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak about peace. What is peace? For me, peace is not an absence of conflict. It is a positive. It is living harmoniously together with mutual understanding and respect for each other. My three messages are: one, that we all have choices. We are choosing all the time. But how often do we stop to think about what will be the consequences of the choice that we made? Two, each one of us is a leader in their own situation. How often have you heard people say, or you said it yourself, this is wrong, but what can I do? I'm just a nobody. There is always something you can do. And thirdly, act now. Don't hesitate. Don't procrastinate. Every little bit counts. It does not have to be earth-shattering. And now for my story. I am a Kenyan who grew up in Mombasa, a town on the Kenyan coast. I was born way back in colonial times and experienced colonial injustice. And so rejoiced when my country won its freedom. But soon after, things began to change. I come from a very tiny minority, the South Asian community, which at the best of times has never been more than 1% of the population. It is small in numbers, but it is economically quite strong. So now we were labeled as exploiters. And we were no longer welcome to some Kenyans. Many of my community then emigrated. It was the Asian exodus of the 1960s. But I and others decided to stay. I not only stayed, but then chose to move out of my own communal cocoon and on to involvement on the national stage. I joined a municipal council committee, several school boards, and supervised a cottage industries project. This work brought me to Nairobi to establish a community and race relations project for the National Christian Council of Kenya. And that is how I became a social justice and human rights activist. I must tell you about another choice I made. In the heart of Nairobi is a 4-acre garden, the only green space in the city. Here, people come to relax, to study, to socialize, and just to enjoy nature. And there are all sorts who come, regardless of race, ethnicity, religion, or status. In Jeevanji Gardens, we are all one. In 1991, some greedy developers schemed to grab the land. I was in Mombasa. I had no stake in the gardens, but I did have a locus standi. The gardens were donated to Nairobi in 1906 by my grandfather. I decided to try and save the gardens. Friends tried to dissuade me. We were living under a single-party dictatorship, and the land grabbers were high and mighty. But I persisted. The press joined me, and together we were able to give a loud voice to the protests of Nairobi citizens. I'm glad to say that we still have Jeevanji Gardens in Nairobi today. Right now, one of the biggest obstacles to Kenya's development is ethnic hatred, a mindset whereby we condemn entire communities. When a person behaves badly, instead of saying X or Y is not a good person, we proclaim that the entire community is either dishonest, unreliable, unpatriotic, or exploitative, and label it with a negative stereotype. Surely, this is something we can all do. Just correct our speech and that of others around us. I remember in colonial times, I used to refuse to use the term boy when I addressed my African servant. Now, as I fight for women's rights, I insist on being called Ms., not Mrs. or Miss. How people talk says everything about what they think. We must lead by example. And finally, we must act and act now. In order to inform my fellow Kenyans as to who South Asians really are and the part they have played in liberating our country, I have written biographies of South Asian leaders who have worked shoulder to shoulder with African leaders. Together with my partner, we published Awaz magazine, which is now in its 11th year. It focuses on minority and diversity issues. Every 2 years, we organize the Samosa Festival. This three-cornered delicacy signifies Asian-African fusion and is filled with a tasty cultural mix of art, music, dance, storytelling, panel discussions, and film shows. The idea is to bring people together, get to know each other's cultures, and create harmony. Next August, we shall be holding our 7th Samosa Festival, and I hope to see you all there. Until then, Koheri ya kuonana, and peace be with you.
Thank you, Zarina. Now, our next speaker is Josephine Kulea. She is the founder and executive director of the Samburu Girls Foundation. She's going to share with us how her contribution empowers girls at the grassroots level. Josephine.
Thank you.
Albert Einstein said, peace is merely not the absence of war, but the presence of justice. Every day, millions of girls around the world are experiencing violence and discrimination. How? 62 million girls today in the world are not in school. Many of them are not having basic rights. And most of them are facing harmful cultural practices. And why? Because simply they are girls. I am a Samburu. I come from Samburu County, one of the beautiful counties in northern Kenya. We are beautiful people with a very beautiful culture. But some of our culture is not as beautiful because we have harmful cultural practices that are affecting the girl child. And that is what we are advocating at the Samburu Girls Foundation. We are saying no to female genital mutilation. Where 100% is the percentage still in my community. We are saying no to child marriages, where 9, 10, 11-year-olds are getting married, their childhood shattered, and bearing the burden of children at a very tender age in the name of culture. We have harmful cultural practices called beading, where young girls carry heavy beads bought by men in exchange for sex. And these girls are not allowed to get pregnant, miraculously, God knows how. And you're having unprotected sex. And when you get pregnant, these kids are not wanted. So you either undergo the crude abortion or you wait to give birth and that baby is killed. These are the kind of girls we rescue at Samburu Girls Foundation because they deserve justice. I stand here today. I'm lucky that I went to school in a community that does not believe in girls' education. And why? Because of a woman, my own mother, who was taken out of second year of high school at 16 years and got married to my father as a third wife. She was just yet another statistic. 35% of married women in this world were married before the age of 18. She fought for me. She was there for me. When the community was saying this girl has grown, she needs to be married, she said no, she needs to be in school. Because because her dream was shattered and she wanted to see her dream fulfilled in us, the daughters. And I decided that I'm going to do something about it. I am going to give back to my community. I am going to start the Samburu Girls Foundation to fight for the other girls like me who did not have a chance to go to school or who are being affected by the harmful cultural practices. I have a colleague, 13 years old. She was removed out of primary school, got married as a second wife. And she promised herself that her children will go to school. And sure enough, she got her children. And when they were old enough to go to school, she enrolled all of them. A neighbor comes by and visits. And she's like, where are your children? And they're in school. Why? Even the girls? Yes. Why? Oh, you know what? I really wanted to be in school. I couldn't be, but I want my children to be in school. And the next day, the neighbor comes back with her own little girl and say, you know what? I have so many children. I think I can give you one girl you can send around for chores to help you. And this lady just took in this girl and the next day enrolled her in school. The next time the lady visits again to visit her daughter and see how she's doing, my colleague tells her, no, the girl is in school. I was like, why did you take my daughter to school? I gave you so that you can use her to help you around. And she said, it's okay, I'll take care of it. So this girl went to school, and her children were also in school. And today, as I speak in front of you, my colleague ensured she did not get a chance to go to school, but her children today, actually, I know the daughter, she's had a master's degree and in a prestigious job. And the little girl that she rescued then to take to school is now a nurse, working back in the village, giving back to the village, and guess what? She's the source of livelihood for the whole family. Her family that did not give her a chance to go to school and gave her away for child labor. That is the kind of ripple effect that Samburu Girls Foundation wants to create. We want to change our community through educating girls. As Nelson Mandela said, the greatest tool to change the world is education. We are saying yes to education. And in the peace process, I would urge that we engage both men and women at the discussion table. You know why? Both genders bear the brunt of conflict. When men are out fighting, the women are taking care of the family. When the men are out fighting and they get injured, it's the women who will take care of them. And when the men go fight and die in war, the women are left with the burden of the families. Women have a role in the peace process. And for me, I want to conclude by saying that women are our emotional banks. They bear the pain, the burden of our families. And we need to tap the same bank and invest in our communities for better leadership. And as Mahatma Gandhi said, there's no path to peace. Peace is the path. I want to challenge everyone in this room to strive to be a peace champion in wherever and whatever you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Josephine. One of the few people who can say they were name-checked by US President Barack Obama. Now, our last two speakers represent two different governments. The first is the National Children's Government, and the second is the Adults' National Government. Our next speaker is Geoffrey Odongo. He is the Deputy President of the National Children's Government of Kenya. And he will be sharing his contribution in ensuring that children's voices are heard here in Kenya. Welcome, Geoffrey.
Thank you. How are you? Niaje wase? Mko poa? I'm honored to be standing before you this faithful day, representing the children's government and representing the children in our nation. I know you are asking what's the children's government. The children's government is a body composed by children, elected by other children. It replaces the prefecture system that most of you are familiar with. But nowadays we don't have head boys and head girls. We have the children's government. As the president said, we are migrating from analog to digital. So is to children. It serves as the official voice of the children and encourages children to express their ideas freely. And most of the children are impressed with this children's government because the children's government is the children who elect their leaders. And the prefecture system, the teachers were the ones who are to elect the leaders. we have, in the children's government, we have 10 posts. The first post is the post of the president, his or her excellency. The second post is of the deputy president. The third post is of the speaker. And then we have the deputy speaker. We have 6 cabinet secretaries, which are the cabinet secretary of education, the cabinet secretary of ICT and external relations, the cabinet secretary of justice, peace and cohesion, the cabinet secretary of children's welfare and special needs, the cabinet secretary of sports, culture, and the cabinet secretary of environment, health and sanitation. I know you're asking how we came up having 10 officials in the national children's government, whereas we have more than 1 million children in this country. This election starts from the grassroots level, which are the schools, and then we move on to the county level, and then we move on to the national level. I can't explain much because I have to keep my time. So for more information, you can go to our website, www.childrensgovernment.co.ke. The main objective of the children's government, amongst others, is to unite pupils nationwide through peaceful, fair, and transparent elections, which bring along the principle of democracy to the school level and promote responsible citizenship. In addition, the roles and functions of the children's government is to maintain discipline and order in schools. Like another day, for example, I found 2 candidates arguing. And because they respect me as their leader, as their deputy president, because they are the ones who elected me, and we resolved the case before it went to the teacher. And most times you can find children, what they are fighting over, it's not a big issue. It was just a pencil that they were fighting over, imagine. So they create a mountain out of an anthill. My role as the deputy president of the children's government is to promote peace in schools by building lasting friendship across culture, tribes, ethnics, gender, religion, and different backgrounds to encourage unity amongst us. Like, for example, I never met a pupil from Garissa. Actually, the president was the first one. The president is from Garissa. And we have the other leaders also are from different counties. A peaceful environment will promote a conducive atmosphere for quality learning at school. It also promotes happiness in the family and a peaceful nation at large. The old man said, "Send a thief to catch a thief." Children are so open to their fellow pupils than their teachers. So as the children's government, we create a link between the teachers and the pupils. And nowadays, children don't fear teachers, but they respect them. You know, my uncle used to tell me long ago that when he used to see the staff room, he used to take the first turn. Or when you see a teacher, you you take the other way. For example, my school dorm and in many other schools, discipline cases are resolved by the children's government before taking them to the school administration. This children's government, we are elected by the children themselves. We are not elected by the teachers. And so are the children also open to us, because if I can elect you, I believe in you, yeah? Is that right? So the children's government, the pupils themselves, they respect us, and we work together, resolve a case before taking it, and before it reaches to the school administration, it's already solved. As I stand before you this day, representing the voices of the children in Kenya, my pledge is to contribute in promoting peace in this country. And, you know, I also like God. So, God also said we have peace, okay? Yeah. So, I'd like to take you back to the Bible. In the book of Proverbs, the Bible says, train a child in the way he should go, even when he grows up, he shall not depart from it. No, if children can be taught about peace at this early age, peace will prevail in this world. So, I'm honored once again to be one of the speakers without an ID. Standing before not only people with ID, but respected people. And this children's government has not only helped the children, but has also helped us as their leaders, as children, as their leaders. Because if they can elect us, if I can have 370 votes out of 470 voters, I believe that one day I can be elected a leader of this country, and my fellow candidates. So, if you know they are the next generation, yeah? Next time when I'll be vying for the seat, they're the same people who are going to elect me, yeah? So, time is up. I wish you could have more time, but time is up, and I've given you the website. And if you'd like to talk to me, you can visit me at www.joffreyodongo, the Deputy President. But most of all, I'd like you to visit our website, which is www.childrensgovernment.co.ke. I don't want to finish time for the others. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeffrey. That definitely warranted a standing ovation. Amazing, very confident young man. And our Deputy President needs to watch out, I must say. Thank you. Our next speaker is Yusuf Hassan. He is a serving member of the Kenyan Parliament, and he's going to share his contribution of how he promotes tolerance, human rights, and social justice. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you, Victoria. Good evening. That is a very hard act to follow, very impressive. I have no doubt that he will do very well in his political career. I want to acknowledge our Chief Justice, the Chairman of NCIC, Mzee Kaparo, and the Ambassador of Switzerland, as well as the people who've helped to bring us all together into peace in the United Nations. I'd like to say that when we discuss peace, it is not an easy subject to come to conclusion of what is peace. But perhaps I would start by saying that I would not have a date or a point in my time where I could say that I became aware of the concept of peace, or I became a peace advocate, because I've not always been one. I grew up in an environment of conflict. I experienced war and its consequences at a very early age in my life. When the war broke up in northern Kenya, the northern frontier district of Kenya, between people who wanted to separate and join neighboring Somalia and Kenya, which wanted to keep it. I was growing up with my parents in that part of the country. And that is when I first had an inkling of what conflict is and what its consequences are. In that particular conflict, thousands of people were killed, many were displaced, and a lot of people were injured and left with the consequences of that conflict, which is known in Kenya as the Shifta War. The war shaped my worldview. On one hand, I was outraged and revolted by the atrocities and the terrible effects of war. On the other hand, I could not condemn violence because at that time I saw it as a legitimate weapon to right the terrible wrongs that had happened. I became a journalist at the BBC, and as fate would have it, my job was to cover the many conflicts that were raging in the Africa continent. It was here, as an adult, that I first experienced the horrible realities of conflict, while many of these conflicts were sparked by repressive regimes, and people were justified, I would say, to rise up and remove dictators. The consequences that they left were much worse, and people were much worse off than they were before. I quit reporting and ceased to be a spectator to human suffering and pain. In search of a new mission in my life, I joined the United Nations to work for refugees and victims of war and violence around the globe. Violence was not the answer, and it will never be the answer to the many problems that we face in Kenya and in Africa and the world. If I quote Martin Luther King said, "Violence is immoral because it thrives on hatred rather than love. Violence ends up in defeating itself. It creates bitterness in the survivors and brutality in the destroyers." Here in Nairobi, we are very close to the deadly consequences of war. Our neighbors, Somalia and South Sudan, have been locked in a seemingly endless conflicts that have caused massive destruction and human suffering. Kenya's military forces are at war in Somalia, and internally we face the growing threat of radicalization and violent extremism. This is usually blamed on the influence of radical groups, but dig deeper, and it clearly has a cause, whether it is poverty, inequalities, historical injustices, hopelessness, abuse of power, and poor management of national affairs. And every day I'm confronted by these issues in my own constituency in Kamkunji, which for those of you who are not familiar perhaps with Nairobi, is part of the eastern part of Nairobi, the Eastlands. My constituency is only some few meters from the corridors of Kenya's economic and political power. I am still angered and outraged by many of the iniquities that I see, but I no longer see violence as a panacea. Poverty is a silent war. We cannot have peace in the midst of inequalities and injustices. And tackling poverty is a daunting task with no easy answers. But I'm encouraged every day by the little miracles of change that I see around me. Like the bright, needy girl from Kiambu, an informal settlement in Eastleigh Section 3 in my constituency, who has got a scholarship to continue her education and become the first woman in her family to go to a secondary school. Like erecting toilets and shower rooms for the residents of Katanga section in Majengo, an incredible improvement in the sanitation and hygiene of that particular community. Like digging a borehole to provide cleaning water, drinking water to the people of Bama. You would think that there is no need to do that in a capital city like Nairobi because of the stories that I've had about Samburu Turkana and places like that. But we have hidden poverty in our capital city, in some of those areas. Like enabling hundreds of young men and women in Kamkunji to train and acquire new skills, to enter the job market and be self-employed. These may be small efforts, but together they mount up. On the 7th of December 2012, an attack outside a mosque in my constituency killed 7 people, including 2 children, and seriously injured me. This despicable act of evil shook my faith in humanity and once again challenged my belief in peace. I was angered by the senseless attack and killings. I felt betrayed and almost lost my trust in humanity. And just like every other victim of oppression and violence, I was filled by ill will, bitterness, and the desire for revenge. But my confidence in humanity was once again restored by the avalanche of support and solidarity, the prayers and the positive thoughts of thousands of Kenyans from all walks of life, across the religious and political divide, Christians, Muslims, and many other people. I could not believe the kindness and generosity of spirit of the people of Kamkunji when on the 3rd of March 2013, as I was lying injured, seriously injured in a hospital, they came out in their thousands to re-elect me as their representative in the National Assembly. Since then, I have put my energy and time to bring people together for the common good. To achieve that, we need to focus on not our differences, but that which unites us, and to recognize that we are one and interconnected community. I see myself as a peace campaigner, building bridges, connecting these diverse communities, and laying the ground for more peaceful and tolerant society. I see the diversity of Kamkunji as a blessing rather than as a curse. It is a strength that can bound us together as collaborators and agents of positive change. I have conducted many town hall meetings and addressed gatherings of young men and women in Kamkunji, warning them against the dangers of radicalization and extremism to both themselves and to their community. We must invest in the future of our youth. We must empower our youth and listen to our youth. Currently, they are spectators, although I must say that listening to that young man talking about his future and peace, that some of them are active participants. I think many of them are spectators in the political process. We need to change this and to involve them in the power and the political decision-making in the country. We must give the youth the skills, the training, and the resources to which they can get to work as productive citizens who can positively contribute to the development of their community and their country. That way, we can give our youth, whatever their backgrounds, ethnicity and religion, a sense of belonging and a stake in the future of the country. This is the best antidote against extremism and other negative behavior in our society. The Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step at a time, 2, 3, 100 steps, and before long, you would realize you have reached or have seen sight of your destination." In Kamkunji, we are walking one step at a time. To quote Kenya's great poet and first prisoner Latif Abdallah, "Safari ni ndefu, wasafiri msichoke." The journey is long. Don't get tired and give up. So let's keep on working and moving towards a more peaceful and prosperous future for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Hassan, for that. I'm pleased to now invite our closing musical act, Afrizo. Karibu sana.
Good evening. We are Afrizo, meaning from the African zone. We're led by Helen Tawali, and we are based at Daystar University.
May every dignitary in the house say hi. The highs win it. Now we have this song, and this song concerns us. If we cannot face our fears will face us for the rest of our lives, right? And I believe that we should advocate for peace, because peace is what we need at this time of our lives. And if we did not learn from the post-election violence, then we are not educated. True or false? May the dignitaries say aye. The aye, take it. Oh. This song is called Love is Like Chrome. You can see my guitarist is tacking his... Love is like Rome, and it's never built on a single day. Kenya ni moja, hakuna chuki tena. Tuungane, tujenge nchi yetu. Tuachane na uchochezi na ukabila. Tuungane, tujijenge kimaisha. So why do we cry when hatred is what we're living in? And why do we fight when love is what we need? Love is like Rome, it's never built on a single day. Love is like Rome, it's never built on a single day. Love is like Rome, it's never built on a single day. Love is like Rome, it's never built on a single day.
I contribute to peace.
I contribute to peace.
Taka cha Mungu ni sharti ainame, chambilecho wazee wa kale. Just look at this nation, tumetoka mbali, mbona sasa tuwashe nare? Sitarusha mawe,
no,
sitang'oa reli.
No.
The disgusting things we watch every day on our telly. Why do we cry when hatred is what we're living in? Why do we hide when love is all we really need?
Love is like Rome, it's never built on a single day. Love is like Rome, it's never built on a single day. Love is like Rome, it's never built on a single day. Love is like Rome, it's never built on a single day. Guys, I want to tell you something, and I want you guys to repeat after me. We are one. Repeat after me. We are one. Regardless of our skin tone, our religion, our conviction, and our opinion, we are one, right? We are one. Despite everything, despite our opinion, our differences, we are one. And I believe if we unite today, we are going to make a difference. Peace is in our mindset. It's in our mindset. And that is what we need to get right in our head. Yeah? So listen. Love is like Rome, it's never built on a single day. Love is like Rome, it's never built on a single day. Love is like Rome, it's never built on a single day. Yeah. that is what we should settle for. Thank you all.
Thank you, Friso, for that selection. Now, we've heard 11 powerful stories from 11 powerful individuals, and the challenge has been put forth. What are you going to do to help to contribute to peace in your own life? And that's something that I think is worth pondering over in your free time. But for now, we'll thank the Swiss Embassy in Kenya, and our colleagues from the National Cohesion and Integration Commission, Interpeace, and the United Nations office here in Nairobi, who made the Nairobi Peace Talks possible. A special thanks to our musical guests, Sarabi and Afrizo, and Giuliani, as well as our technicians. We now invite you to continue the discussion as well as to interact with each other in the Delegates Lounge. Please allow our speakers to leave first. However, I'd like to call them up on stage. If we can give them one last round of applause. All our speakers, please make your way up, including Claudia, our graphics choreographer there. Please make your way up. Thank you once more. Celine, Giuliani, Josephine, Chief Karaoke, please make your way up as we congratulate you all for a job well done. And our future Deputy President, Geoffrey. Ladies and gentlemen, one more round of applause for our speakers of the evening. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you at the reception in the Delegates Lounge. We'll allow our speakers now to make their way there. Thank you once again.